Hey everyone, I'm excited to be here today to show you how to leverage AI to create features, components, and just start to test early and get feedback. Today, we're actually going to do a few things using AI. We're going to be creating some images to go with our design here. We're going to be analyzing some data to get some interesting insights. And we're going to be building out a component in React because I want to show folks just how easy this really is. So if we wanted to build something either to hand off to a development team, or in this case, we're going to put it in front of our client and see what they think, it's really easy. So without further ado, why don't we look at the site that we have right now and talk about the request that we've received from our client, St. Nick. So we have a look at how the current production is going at Santa's workshop. We can see that wooden toys, plushies, action figures are some of the highest toys in terms of needing elves for support. We have some great information here about how long it takes to build things. So we can see here plushies are seeing a high number of production hours. We also have what the top 10 toys are. So the mini train is the number one, and we get to see a breakdown. And then finally, we have the cost of some of our most expensive toys, giving us an idea as to which categories are most expensive and least expensive. But the problem that we've received is jolly old St. Nick doesn't really want to look at all these graphs and try and piece together whether or not this is good or bad. It's just not giving him the context or the information he needs, which I think is a common problem amongst a lot of businesses with reporting dashboards these days. So we're going to create a feature that will allow us to provide Santa with a couple of insights, actionable trends that he might be able to work off of. And we're just going to give him a little bit more meaning behind what these numbers are. So to start, we know we want to provide some insights. We want to make sure that we're on the right track. So I have some data that I've prepared. We're going to upload that to ChatGPT, and we're going to see if we can't get a few meaningful insights from the data to be able to kickstart this widget that we want to test with St. Nick. So first and foremost, we're going to head over to ChatGPT. Whoops. So we'll get a new chat going. I've got a prompt ready to go over here. Okay. So I have a prompt here. So we'll just open that up quickly. You get a quick peek into the React platform that we're working in. But this can be done as well without React. So I think that's an important note. And we can show that later. So we'll pop into ChatGPT. We'll paste our prompt. Essentially, what we're saying is, can you identify 3 key trends or concerns? We provide an example as to what we're looking for and how we're going to present it. So in this case here, the example is just that plushies are a popular item, but require more elves in other categories and are one of the higher cost items this year. And we want each insight to touch on something different and be important that our client really should know about it. So we've got our prompt. Now what we're going to do is we're going to upload our data. So we're currently looking at the 2023 data set, okay, and we will submit that. So ChatGPT is going to analyze our data. You see here too, we're only using 4.0. So you don't need to use a paid account to load any of the stuff that we're doing. You can do it right now with the resources that are available. Obviously, if you have access to more powerful tools like O1, you're going to get even stronger outputs, less hallucinations. But I think in the case of what we're doing today, this works. So we've got our insights here, which read as the fact that we have electronics are the most expensive toys, wooden toys require the most elves, and plushies take the most production time. So we've got our 3 insights. We're going to turn this into a carousel. We'll come back to this in a minute, but why don't we look at the design now? And, I've got a Figma board set up, and I think what we want to do is we're going to put these insights in at the top. So we'll move these down, and we will create ourselves an environment here that allows us to present these insights in a way that our client, in this case St. Nick, will be able to understand. So, I think we've got a good size here. And then we will just update the colors to be a little more in line with what we have already. Take the white background here. Next up, what we'll do is we will get our border set. Grab the same border color that we're using over here. There we go. Next, I think we should give it maybe a title. We'll call it Did You Know? And we'll make sure it's using the same font as the rest of the site. So I'll head over here and say in this file, we're using Hammersmith 1. And finally, why don't we set the font size here to be, I think I want to do 18. Okay, so we've got our Did You Know? So should it maybe do something like this? And then we want to head over to ChatGPT. We'll grab the first insight. There we go. And put her right here. And again, since this is the most important piece, we'll head over here and we'll just update the font size. Make it 24. There we go. Now that we're up to 24, I think we've got a pretty good setup, but it's looking pretty bland. So we're going to head to Midjourney. Okay, so now that we're at Midjourney, the next step is we want to create a cute, adorable reindeer so that we can add that to the design and just kind of give it a little more holiday flair. So I've got a prompt here that we can use that essentially says that we want a cute, adorable reindeer with a red nose, Christmas hat, and a scarf. We want it to be a full body reindeer. We don't want a headshot. We provide a little bit of context as to how we're going to use it, and that we want it on a white background. Next thing we're going to do is give it an image to add just a little bit of reference points. So I picked the classic Rudolph from, my childhood. And what we want to do, we have a couple of options here. We can either use this as a character reference, or we can kind of use it as style reference, right? Where we say, use this kind of look and feel. That's what we want to do. The last thing I like to do is adjust the stylization just to make sure that we've got something that's a little creative and original. In fact, why don't we jack it all the way up to the top in Christmas spirit, and we will submit. The next thing I like to do from here too is I don't like to just do one. I'll rerun it a couple of times, and that gives us a few different choices to work with. I know for myself, I'm rarely happy with the first thing that comes back. So this gives us a little more flexibility. Okay, so we're getting some good screenshots back in terms of what we want. And actually, like I said, I wanted a full body reindeer. So I think this does the trick. It's pretty adorable. It's got our Santa hat, antlers, red nose, and scarf. So we're going to just download that. And the next thing we want to do before we bring it into Figma is just set it up so that we can get rid of the background. So I use a service called Clip Drop where you go remove background, and then you can just take your image that you've created, drop it in, remove background. And I want to say too, Clip Drop has got all sorts of great tools. There's upscaling, there's repainting, there's the ability to change the background. But in our case, we just want the background to be removed. And why don't we add our reindeer? There we go. We'll make it a little smaller so it fits. Not quite doing it for me yet. So why don't we make it a little bit smaller, but we'll maybe give it a circle, kind of like as a background. We'll get them to play together, and then we'll adjust the text accordingly. But I think I like this. We'll make it a little bigger, just kind of play with the space. And next, we'll want to select the circle here. Let's change the color of the circle. So instead of it being gray, let's make it like a nice Christmas green. There we go. And then we'll bring Rudolph. Rudolph, it's just a reindeer. It doesn't need to be Rudolph. So we'll bring our reindeer over, and actually what I want to do first is just group these two. That way we can move it around. And now we'll select our text here. We'll select our reindeer. We'll auto layout it one more time. Let's give it a little bit more padding. So maybe we'll give some spacing, 24 pixels. I think that keeps everything nicely contained. I'm still not thrilled. So why don't we add Christmas emoji for the did you know? Get the bell. We'll put that here. And I think we've got a good thing for test purposes at least. Everything's balanced the way we want. So the next step now is we're going to go to Cursor, and we're going to use something called Composer. And we have two choices. We can either do normal or we can do agent. We're going to do agent because what agent allows us to do is not only work with AI to generate, but it does a lot of the heavy lifting for us. If any libraries need to be installed, it can take care of that, and it can move things around as well. So with that said, again, I've got a prompt that I've started. So we'll pop over here, and all the prompt is saying is that we want to create a carousel. So we want to create a carousel, create a component that acts as a carousel. And we want it to follow the design that's been provided. We want to make sure it's responsive and that it's the first component on the dashboard. We're going to provide the CSS from Figma. And we also want to give it some holiday flair so it fits in with our other elements. We've given our 3 insights for Santa. So we'll head back to Figma now. And one thing I like to do is just make sure it's a frame. It is. We're going to copy as code and pick all CSS layers. We'll pop that here. And you can see here, all it's doing is just creating a guideline for the AI to follow so it knows roughly from a positioning standpoint, from a color standpoint, from a font standpoint, just what we want that styling to be. And the other thing I like to do is I'll copy it as a PNG and I'll paste that as well. And that gives it a visual that it can kind of compare against. And so what we'll do, we'll submit. And as it loads, you'll see it's checking the current directory. And it's just going through to make sure it knows what files exist and where it needs to put our new feature. So it's now building the carousel. It's adding the facts. And you see here, it's adding it under components. So again, we didn't have to try and guess where it needed to go or how we needed to build it. It's doing all of that for us. It's now making sure that it's generating the proper stylings to support it. So again, if you're a designer, this is really straightforward. We essentially just say, I want you to build this. Here's the CSS, which we just copied from Figma. Here's the screenshot we wanted, and it's doing the rest for us. There might be some cleanup we need to do at the end. That's usually pretty normal, but it looks like it's done now. It's created the carousel. It says it's got the auto rotation. It shows the reindeer. There's probably a good chance we need to give it a reindeer image. And why don't we just export that as reindeer? I already saw that the URL is going to be incorrect, but that's okay. We can tell Cursor the right place to put it. So we'll accept all this, and then we're just going to say the reindeer image should be found in the public images folder. Please use that as the reference. So I was just going to update it so that we're using the right image. And take a moment. There we go. There, you can see now it's updated it to make sure it's image is reindeer. We have no errors. We're going to approve it. And now it's time for the moment of truth. Let's head back to our Santa dashboard. We'll hit refresh. Oh, and just need to, it's my fault. I accidentally closed it. In fact, why don't we do this? We'll say the build isn't running anymore. Can you start it, please? And by the way, fun little AI fact that always surprises people. If you use words like please, thank you, take your time, that will actually result in a better output because it's been trained on human data. And typically, if we use terms with each other, like please, thank you, take your time, we tend to do a better job. And so it associates those sort of terms with doing a better job. So we'll hit run. Now we've got our server back up and running. So why don't we hit refresh? And check it out. We've got our carousel. We can rotate back and forth, but I'm not sure I'm feeling the width yet. So why don't we say, can you make the width of the carousel 100%? And I don't know about you folks, but I'm not loving this pulsating on the did you know text. What we'll do is, can it look like it's raining presents, similar to how the other components have animations in the background. Okay, so it's going to adjust our width, hopefully, and fix the styling and give us a little bit more of a creative flair without it being overwhelming. Hopefully. So there you can see that it's making its changes. We'll hit accept, and this is perfect. We've actually got a bug. The carousel has disappeared entirely. I think I know why, but we'll see if it can figure it out first. So we'll say the carousel is now missing. Can you take a look at the styling to see if there's a reason why it might be missing? Now, I already know, I'm pretty sure that when it set the overflow hidden, it also opted to hide everything because CSS can be a pain in the butt sometimes. So we'll get it to just give a quick check and see if it can figure out what's missing. It's not addressing the overflow. So what we'll just let it continue to run and do its thing for a moment. We'll accept the changes, but we can already see that it's missing our carousel still. But you see this line here? I think that's what is the carousel. So I think the overflow hidden may be causing the carousel itself to be hidden. Can you check the height and overall settings to make sure that's not the case, right? And what you can always do too is revert back to a previous state if it's not working. I like to try and figure out if we can't debug it first. But we did have the carousel initially, so we know it works. And there we go. So exactly that. It needed a height and a min height in order for it to work. So I had a feeling the overflow was causing a problem. We'll hit accept. We'll pop over here. And there we are. We've got a fully functioning new did you know component that matches the styles and general look and feel. Could probably actually make the text leverage the space a little bit more. So why don't we do that? We'll just say, can you leverage the space better? There's a lot of white space that we could take advantage of. Maybe center the insight content and reindeer so it's in the middle of the carousel. So it's going to better utilize the space. And there we go. We've got our insight, so we know that electronics are expensive and may affect profitability, that the wooden toys need to be careful because they require a lot of attention, and plushies might need some streamlining. So I appreciate folks taking the time to watch this. I know it's a little bit different, but like I said, you can see here that we were able to build a component very, very quickly from analyzing the data to creating a visual to building it out in React, doing a little bit of debugging, and ultimately just updating some of the styling so it fit more in line with what we had. I'll share the prompts with the video, so if anybody wants to try and do this themselves, they can. And what I'll do is I'll post the code so you can take a look if you're curious to see how it all was generated. I'll be honest with you, this entire platform I built today using AI. I just kind of threw it together for the video. So yeah, essentially we built a dashboard in about 4 hours, including the time it took to set up all the filming and all of that. So that's what I'm talking about when I say that this is a whole new era we're entering in where we can create and take risks and really do some neat, innovative stuff without the risk of huge financial burden. So thanks again for watching. If you like this, I'll try to release a few more videos similar to this, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, everybody. Merry Christmas and happy holidays.